TikTok involved here, and then we will get this party started. It is 9:30 a.m. on a chilly day in the sunny South. All right. How's that doing? Oh, nice. Okay. See how many views I got. Oh, all right. Let's see. Propaganda. All right. Just got a Pinterest follower. All right, and TikTok, we are live. All right, hello YouTube, hello TikTok. We are live. It is a chilly day, a little wet and chilly day here in the South, but as I like to say, it could be 10 degrees colder. So we are very blessed to have the day that we have, and I'm fortunate to be from the North, so I can handle days like this quite fine. Plus, it gives me an excuse to wear my oh-so-fantastic allegedly hat, which if you're not down with, you should definitely get down with. Because they could say all the things they want about me and my friends and people who think the way I do. And all I have to say, allegedly. But they don't want us talking about what they do because we all know it's not something they want brought to light. But needless to say, we are here. It is another beautiful day. It is Thursday, so today I teach a live class every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. on propaganda, although that is coming to an end. Don't be sad. The next class I'll be teaching, which I think will be 2 or 3 weeks from now I'll start it, is going to focus on American governance, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. We are ending our propaganda class, but teaching our children about propaganda is so important. And it's amazing that it's not a core subject in public schools, but when you understand the system, you see why it's not. Because propaganda is how they control the public mind. It's how they direct us toward supporting their agendas, right? They want to control our behavior. And the way you control the behavior of a population is through the control of their perception of the world around them. Well, how do you control the perception of a huge population? Well, that's what you get. You get propaganda. And where is it? It's in every aspect of our lives. It's every time you turn on the television, anytime you put on a Hollywood movie, anytime you put on the radio or whatever it might be, the public school system itself. Propaganda, 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 propaganda. Right? So it is very important that we teach our children how to see that. So when I started teaching live classes, the first class I decided to teach was on just that subject. And of course, for those of you familiar with my work, I am the author of the Cubs to Bears children book series. They made it legal to run propaganda on Americans during Obama's presidency. Yes, they did. The, what was that act? I used to know the name of the act. National Defense Authorization Act. Well, anyway, I think they added something into it that made it legal to run propaganda domestically. So they legalized that. Now, give it, they were already doing that for those of us that know our history. I mean, if you go back to the 1970s, one of the most important congressional investigations in American history, they found out that, and this is all documented in the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act was another one. The Patriot Act was more an avenue of opening up the government's ability to intrude into our lives, to spy on Americans and to suspend. So really it was an attack on the Fourth and Fifth Amendment, to spy on Americans and to suspend the right to a fair trial, right? So the Patriot Act was a big deal. And then in 2000 and I don't know exactly, maybe 2012, the National Defense Authorization Act, they actually encoded, they legalized propagandizing the American public, which they had always done, but they just, I don't know, for some reason they wanted to put that, they wanted to encode that. So, you know, if you go back to the 1970s in that Church Committee report, well, Congress did an investigation. Yeah, suspend habeas corpus, right, the Patriot Act, which is a big deal. And of course, they always do these things, right? They say, oh, well, these people are terrorists, right? They're terrorists. Well, fast forward to 2022, who are the groups of people that they say are terrorists now, right? At first they point their finger outwards and they say, look at those people. We need to suspend basic liberty because of terrorism. And then once you accept the ticket, once you take the ticket, that's why we all get the tyranny we deserve. Because once you take the ticket, 10, 20 years later, they point that finger inward and they say, Americans are. And I mean, I'm not going to get too into it, but I know people that have, I mean, I might not necessarily agree with their views, disagree with their views, but I mean, they're not terrorists. But I know people that, you know, government has knocked on their door because of their social media posts. So like, and think about the people on not January 5th, not January 7th, and like everything that's gone on with that, right? They used that event, man. They used that event. They said, Uncle Sam is knocking on your door. No, my streams are at 9:30 a.m. moving forward. So I used to do them at 12 p.m. But now we are 9:30 a.m. And I think this is the time I'm going to stick to. I started this week and I'm really enjoying it. Right? So was a nice reminder for the politicians to show them that, no. That whole event was orchestrated. That you didn't show the politicians anything. They let that happen. That was, anyway, I'm not going to get too into that event because like I said, I know people that have had the government knock on their door, and I knew people going into that date. I understood the world around me enough who were like, hey, Brett, I think I'm going to go to that event. What do you think? And I was like, you have to be lost if you think going to that event is a good idea, right? And then, sure enough, what happened? And like, there are people still sitting in jail cells. These, I'm not trying to rip on them, but useful idiots that are sitting in jail cells because they don't fully understand the way COINTELPRO works, right? The history of these intelligence agencies. Am I reading comments for Bertaria as well? I only have TikTok and YouTube in front of me. Right? So you got to understand the history of the government infiltrating these events, right? I mean, you could go back to the civil rights movement. Like, you know, that was all government agitators that were there to turn peaceful marches into violent marches. Like that's what they do. And it's so easy because humans are very easily manipulated. And they could just put in a few agitators. You know, people say like George Soros. You know, people take the ticket, man. They might hire a few agitators to go to events and start acting a fool. But you see the majority of people at those events who start doing all those crazy things, no, they just, oh, is that what we're doing? Yeah, let's do it. I'm in the heat of the moment. Am I going to think this through? No, they're not going to think this through. So that's why when, I told people back then with that event, I was like, you gotta be crazy if you think going there is a good idea. You couldn't find me within 300 miles of that place. And to me, that was the most obvious thing in the world. And, and that's why, like, I so much with that. And it's just like, I mean, the president, I mean, Trump got like neutered in front of the world. I mean, and then he brought his people there, got them fired up into an obvious trap. There's an obvious trap. Like I said, there's people I know that could vouch because I was telling them if there's ever an obvious trap, it's this. He gets them all fired up, walks his people into an obvious trap, and then he just turns on them. He's like, oh, America. My Trump's terrible, but he's like, we are going to build a wall, and Mexico is going. My Trump's terrible, but he turned on those people. He was like, yeah, lock them up. Man, I mean, try to lock them up. How about you lock up Hillary, Donald? That's what you told us you were gonna do. Anyway, so propaganda, understanding it is very, very, very important, right? Because this is the type of stuff, this is the difference between life and death. I mean, I posted a video on it this morning, and I used a picture of, it was this Russian bear that will break you. And the bear is like, look at all me, like, and the media, the cameras on the bear is like, right? Like, look at these Russians. Meanwhile, what they don't show you is right under the bear is like Ukraine poking that bear with a stick, and then like NATO and the US behind them, like, yeah, poke the bear. You don't have a clue. Yeah, I don't have a clue. Okay. I tell you you're wrong. You don't have a clue. With your allegedly hat, you're coming on here talking about propaganda. You don't know. Donald was going to make it happen on not January 5th and 7th. And, he was going to get Hillary in the sewers. He was going to go down into the sewers, and he was going to get Hillary and her gang of you know what they do in the sewers. You don't have a clue. Well, I do have a clue because, I've read the Finders report, like from start to finish, like that FBI document, the Finders. Probably not allowed to say that on here, but, I do have a clue. I just understand how this stuff really works. So, like, most people will sit here and yell at the screen, and they'll be like, we're so against all the stuff in the Podesta emails. But then, like, they go home and they watch their X-rated films, right? Like, well, what do you think you're supporting? You're directly financing it by doing that, right? Like, you understand that, right? Yeah, get your glass house in order. And I do have a clue, like, because like I said, I never fell for the, that letter. That letter of the alphabet that was liberating America from the left, right? There's this letter, and, 1717, and he's here to liberate us. And, even though I told people the whole time, it was so obvious that was a psychological operation. Well, how do you know that was a psychological operation, Bob? Well, could you imagine that there was this mysterious figure operating in the shadows of the intelligence community, and he was giving it to everyone. He was saying, hey guys, this is what's really happening. And the intelligence agencies and the news media and everyone, they weren't actually focused on figuring out who this person was, right? There was no like, we need to figure out who this person is. We need to shut that down. It was just, oh, look at these supporters of that. Right? Like, do you see how obvious it is? Right? So as that was happening, I knew that was a psychological operation. You say, well, why was that a psychological operation? Well, let me break it down for you, Betsy. Well, as they were rolling out this agenda, let's just call it this agenda happening around the same time, very much aimed at taking away all basic human liberty, like even sovereignty over our own bodies, right? As they're rolling out this agenda, the people that would be most naturally opposed to that, right? The liberty people were saying, oh, no, guys, this shutdown is a good thing. They were saying there's going to be blackouts And after that, Ellen DeGeneres and Tom Hanks are going to be arrested and put into jail, and there's going to be military tribunals. You mean like the type of psychological operation where you take right-wing America, which is supposed to be constitutional America, and you have them openly call for military tribunals and the end of habeas corpus? Do you know what a disaster, like if what they wanted to happen was actually true, do you know what a complete and utter disaster that would be for the remaining remnants of freedom in the United States of America? These were the same patriots, the right-wing Americans. This is why I laugh at right-wing America too. This is the same right-wing Americans who say, of course you gotta support the Patriot Act. Oh yeah, you gotta support the Patriot Act? How's that looking now? How's that looking after January 5th, January 7th, right? Oh, it's not looking so good. Yeah, well that's the same thing, right? That was all a psychological operation, right? That was, glad this is only reaching 13 people. You want me to make a video about it? You want to bet I could reach more people? I choose not to. Dare me. Okay, so. Anyway. But yeah, I'm sure you're so intelligent and you're like, no, what are you talking about? That movement was good. Hillary was in the sewers, and we were gonna go get her, and yes, even though Brett, when that was all happening, and you were saying, this is all being used to take your rights, that you shouldn't put on a facial covering, right? That you shouldn't comply with any of this, right? Right? That you shouldn't be, doing certain things that they're trying to pressure everyone to do, and the patriots over here were like, no, what are you talking about? You don't know. They're going to do the military tribunals. Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. And let me guess, you covered your face during that whole time, right? You covered your face, I had to get the booster, I had to, my job, right? And then let me guess, you were like, they're honking horns in Canada, get behind this, they're honking horns in Canada, again, I don't care if this isn't popular, you just don't see. People don't see. It's a psychological operation. You understand that, right? Right? They're going to use it to suspend all basic human liberty, and they're going to set a precedent that they could shut down bank accounts, right? You understand that, right? So, yeah, but I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. So, these are all psychological operations. These are all propaganda, and understanding this is such a powerful thing, and it could be the difference between living a very good life and worrying about the things that matter versus being manipulated into not understanding these things. So there's a lot of people, the same people that were telling me that I had to trust everything Mr. Wants to Give Me an Ouchie says, right, who are now telling me that I have to listen to everything that's going on across the world, right? Because the bad man, the new bad man is, he's targeting buildings with animal shelters and children's hospitals. It's like, oh my God, if you can't see propaganda, it's like a lot of people really don't deserve freedom. They really don't. I fight for freedom and liberty, but you see this stuff and you're like, oh, I see why the controllers are just view people as farm animals. And they're like, yeah, we're just going to control these people. What is the military objective? From a standpoint, a logistical standpoint of what you're trying to achieve, right? What operation you're trying to achieve. What is the purpose? What is the function? If you are sitting in that strategy room, right, and you're trying to achieve a military objective, what is the function of targeting animal shelters and children's hospitals? The only reason they would be doing that, if they are at all, would be that the soldiers and the armaments are being stored in those locations, right? That would be the only reason. Which, in that case, if from a military standpoint, it would be justified, right? It's the same thing with World War I. During World War I, do you know that Germany prior to World War I attempted to take out newspaper ads. I'm glad there's only reading 13 people. The guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Do you know prior to World War I, Germany tried to take out newspaper ads, and they tried to take out newspaper ads to warn the people of America that they would sink ships like the Lusitania, right? And what they were saying in the newspaper ads is like, don't board these ships. They are going to be in these waters, and we know they're carrying armaments. And those armaments, like, oh, so it's justified? Well, if those armaments are being used to be fired at your people, then yes, it's justified, right? So, but J.P. Morgan, very powerful man, the banker, J.P. Morgan Jr., the banker, not the institution, he wound up purchasing a bunch of influential newspapers and blocked the warning from getting out. The rest is history. The Lusitania gets shot down, the newspapers go ramshot, and then the next thing you know, Americans, which were in no way in favor of getting involved in World War I, let's get involved. Let's send all our young men there. Hardwood Bear, my brother, and the Unschoolables in the house. Thank you. I do love the Unschoolables. It just has a ring to it, doesn't it? Right? All can't see propaganda when it literally smacks them in the face, which is, it's very interesting to observe. But yeah, of course they fund both sides of every wars. That's what they do. Why would you fund one side when you can fund both sides? And you're like, or it's that talk about hedging your bet. That's how you win, baby. That's how you win, right?